and welcome to episode 2 of This Academic Life. Now, what I want to talk about today is something that's perturbing me a little bit because it's something that I'm going through currently in my program. So it's September. It's the new year for academics. We make resolutions about how much we're going to read every day and, how many articles we're going to submit to journals and what conferences we're going to apply to and this, that, and the other thing. And the other thing that goes along with that is funding time. It's SSHRC time. Here in Canada, we, in the humanities and social sciences, as I am, apply for SSHRC, which stands for the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada, and they offer funding packages every year, and we have to apply for them. And it's a rigorous process because the bulk of the application comes not just from reference letters or transcripts or any of that other kind of stuff, but a 2-page, single-spaced, 1.87 centimeter margined description of our project, of our methodology, and why we're uniquely qualified to undertake this research. So it's quite a daunting thing for a 2-page application, and most people spend a good few weeks or a couple months working on it to get it to sound just right and to be just convincing enough. Now, that's really not what I wanted to talk about today, because I think we all know the stress of having to sell ourselves and sell our project to this faceless and nameless committee of people who decide our fates, essentially. Now, I don't want to minimize the importance of this because getting a SSHRC, or an NSERC, which is for the sciences here in Canada, or any other kind of scholarship, is not just about the warm and fuzzy feeling we get when somebody acknowledges or recognizes our work. It has a lot to do with economic stability and security. And being able to have the economic stability and security to focus on our work instead of having to work other jobs so that we can keep up our studies. So I don't deny that there are these facets of getting national funding that obviously impact quality of life because, as my fellow graduate students will know, graduate school is not a lucrative business, to say the least, and a lot of students, undergraduates as well, often live near the poverty line or very slightly above it. So there are real consequences which I don't want to minimize. And it also, obviously, getting nationally funded also affords people a certain level of prestige that having gotten funded once generally means that you have a better chance of getting funded in the future for job applications, all this other kind of stuff. What I'm interested in right now, though, is the ways in which this kind of funding, because all graduate students have to apply for it, creates a sense of competition among us, which is not necessarily a very healthy thing. And what I've noticed in my academic career, the first time I applied for SSHRC, I was still in my BA. I was quite naive. I didn't really know what was going on and just thought, okay, well, I just have to apply. I'll do it. But as I went through, the more I found that my colleagues and I would talk about who had gotten funded and who didn't and what their projects were. And there was this sense I found that there was sort of a toxic presence that always came around, not only in September when we were writing these applications, but in April when it was decided or when we were notified as to who had gotten these awards. And it dawned on me that what's really going on is that these sort of processes really weaken the academic community in a lot of ways. We like to believe, I think, that we're all working for the greater good. We're all making important research contributions and we're contributing to this greater, base of knowledge with which to educate, the new generations or the masses or whatever. But just beneath the surface of this is this really strong sense of competition and this angry competition and why did so-and-so get funded and I didn't because we work in the same field and my project is X, Y, and Z and my grades are X, Y, and Z and they only got it because, of this and that. And it's this negativity that is really destructive, not only to ourselves, because then we start to think that our whole academic self-esteem and our worth as a person is dependent on whether or not we get this funding, And that's something that I've experienced last year when I got an email just notifying me that, okay, this year I didn't make it through to the next round of the competition. I wailed. I bawled. I was a mess. I was sitting on my couch in my living room, tears streaming down my face, kind of going into this why me, poor me kind of mindset. And I found it very difficult to be happy for people, my friends, not just colleagues, but my friends who had gotten the funding. And this year I decided that I want to do things differently. Not only because I don't want to be crying if I, don't get to the next round, but I don't want to have that sense of unspoken yet very palpable competition and negative energy between myself and my research community. And I think that, like a lot of communities, academia is only as strong as its weakest member. And I don't mean that in a scholarly or intellectual fashion. I mean that if we're all harboring this negative energy towards each other, that's bound to come up in the way that we interact and in our work. So I decided to take this year and be very present in my process and reframe it as, what does this serve me in the present moment? Yes, I may get funded, which would be nice. It would be great. But what does this serve me in the present moment? To do this application. And it dawned on me that it's a very, very useful tool to foster a sense of excitement within myself. It's sort of an academic chiropractic adjustment of where I want to go with my work, how I feel about it. Do I feel passionate enough about my work to put together a 2-page document to sell it or not? If I can't muster it up the energy to do that, then that tells me something about my research process. It also helps me feel like at the start of the year, because September always feels like the new year, not January, none of that January 1st stuff. September is the new year for me, sharpened pencils and new paper and that kind of stuff. It makes me feel excited. It gives me this motivation to say, okay, I'm going to do more reading. I'm going to look up these books. I'm going to see what other people are saying. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to get excited about this project. And I feel very fortunate that this year my writing process has been easier. I haven't been as stressed out. I've had my moments, don't get me wrong, of I'm not good enough and I'm not smart enough to do this and this is so stressful. But by and large, my process this year has been incredibly smooth. I've gotten into a groove of writing. I'm going to do some revisions this weekend on the advice of my committee, and I'm going to submit it early, not this coming week, but the week after. Submit it and just hope for the best, and put it to the back of my mind for a while, and if I get it, that's wonderful. And if I don't, that should in no way diminish two things. It should in no way diminish my sense of worth as a person, or as an academic, and it should not diminish the enthusiasm with which I approach my project and my work. So I'm hoping that by reframing this can apply to a lot of different other things in my academic life, submissions to journals, conferences, all this kind of stuff, that really reframing things not to be just about competition, but to be about our own personal process. And we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that this might be of use, because I know that a lot of us struggle. I've been talking to a lot of friends lately about this process, and I know how hard it is not to feel as if your worth depends on this, but you are so much more than a funding application, and you are also more than your academic work as well. And I'll talk about that more in another video about identity and academia. So I'm wishing all of you luck in your funding applications, whether it's SSHRC, NSERC, or whatever it is in any other country. And let me know if you have any strategies for reframing the process or getting through the process that you found helpful, or if you've had experience with this sense of academic competition and the feelings that it brings up. So here's hoping that the end of September finds you all well, and I'll be back soon with episode 3. Bye, guys!